Hello guys, it's Vada from the Tech with Vada YouTube channel, and today I will be providing you a guide and PC part picker list to help you build your ultimate mid-range gaming PC. In this video, I will be explaining what components are ideal in a mid-range gaming PC as well as why they may be perfect for you. Step 1 of course is selecting a CPU. In a mid-range gaming PC, we need a CPU that can handle simple day-to-day tasks as well as high FPS gaming. And I know a CPU that can do just that and more effortlessly. It is the Ryzen 5 5600X. The Ryzen 5 5600X features 6 cores and 12 threads, which allows it to be able to handle gaming and streaming both at the same time pretty effortlessly. This CPU has a base clock of 3.7 GHz and a turbo boost clock of 4.6 GHz. The Ryzen 5 5600X is a part of AMD's X series processor lineup, so it has Zen 3 core architecture, making it the best for gaming. This CPU is competitively priced at 24,900 rupees or about $350 on Prime ABGB, which may seem a bit over MSRP, but given its features, it's insanely good and worth it. The Ryzen 5 5600X can be compared to the all-new Ryzen 5 5600G, which is the newest Ryzen 5 APU in the market. The Ryzen 5 5600G is great value at the moment, but with a grave giveaway, which is that it can't be overclocked and also has graphics that really aren't that great for gaming. I will be talking more about the Ryzen 5 5600X, its features, later at the end of the video. By the way, my definition of the price of a mid-range gaming PC is upward of 1 lakh rupees, which is around $1,400. Step 2 of our build is selecting a suitable motherboard. The two suitable chipsets to bring out the most of our Ryzen 5 5600X are the X570 and B550 chipsets. For this build, I chose the B550 chipset-based motherboard. The B550 chipset allows for PCIe Gen 4 speeds, which benefits some of our other components. PCIe Gen 4 allows for higher data transfer speeds, hence the B550 chipset was chosen. The perfect B550 motherboard for this build is a Gigabyte ARS B550 Pro motherboard. It supports capacities of up to 128 GB of RAM, has two M.2 slots, and copper heatsinks for both the M.2 slots, and also provides PCIe Gen 4 speeds to the NVMe M.2 slot and the first PCIe expansion slot. Tip: the NVMe M.2 SSD and the graphics card should be fixed at the slots closest to the CPU socket to receive more bandwidth, hence maximizing the potential of PCIe Gen 4 speeds. For the motherboard I/O, it has one HDMI port, 3 USB Gen 1 ports, 1 USB Type-C USB Gen 2 port, 2 USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type-A ports, and 6 USB 2.0 ports and 5 audio jacks. This motherboard is priced at 15,799 rupees or close to $250 on Prime ABGB. Step 3 is selecting memory/RAM that benefits the Ryzen platform. I chose the G-Skill Trident Z 16GB kit consisting of two 8GB modules. Tip: the Ryzen platform takes advantage of high-frequency dual-channel RAM. Following the tip, I chose the 3600 MHz variant of the G-Skill Trident Z RGB memory. The 3600 MHz kit also has ultra-low latency CL18 timings. This particular kit was only 200 rupees costlier than the 3200 MHz variant on VedantComputers.com, whereas on Amazon or Prime ABGB costed upwards of 22,000 rupees or $300. I love the Trident Z RGB memory kit as they give a very light and warm tone of RGB in our build, which really looks nice. If you're getting confused about the different products in this video, I will be attaching links to all of them in the description. Also, all the websites listed here are trusted retailers in India. Step 4 brings us to our storage. The B550 ARS Pro motherboard has two M.2 SSD slots, one for NVMe SSD and one for SATA SSD. The NVMe interface allows for fast game downloads as well as insanely fast boot times for a better overall gaming experience, which is why I picked the Samsung 980 Pro NVMe M.2 SSD 500GB variant as our primary storage for this build. This M.2 drive offers PCIe Gen 4 speeds, which is compatible with our motherboard's PCIe Gen 4 support. PCIe Gen 4 allows for data transfer rates at really high speeds. This PCIe Gen 4 M.2 drive offers read speeds of 7,000 megabytes and write speeds of 5,100 megabytes per second. Those numbers are absolutely massive, which is why I highly recommend the Samsung 980 Pro M.2 NVMe SSD. This SSD is priced at 11,199 rupees or 150 US dollars on Amazon. A lower end alternative to this is the Samsung 970 EVO Plus, which features read and write speeds of 3500 megabytes per second at 3000 rupees or 45 US dollars lower than the 980 Pro. The 970 EVO Plus only has PCIe Gen 3 capabilities. For our secondary storage, I chose the WD Blue M.2 SATA SSD. If you didn't already know, the SATA interface caps read and write speeds at 560 megabytes per second, which is really low compared to the NVMe counterparts. So we are going for capacity here. The WD Blue M.2 SATA SSD allows read and write speeds of 560 megabytes per second and 530 megabytes per second respectively. It has a capacity of 1 terabyte. If you need more storage, a hard drive is the way to go, but for the average consumer, 1 terabyte should be more than enough. This M.2 SATA SSD has a 5-year warranty, and I think it's perfect for this build. Step 5 of our build is CPU cooling. A beast mid-range CPU like the Ryzen 5 5600X needs adequate cooling. The RAID stealth cooler that is boxed together with the Ryzen 5 5600X isn't that great of a CPU cooler. In fact, many reviews by critics claim that the RAID Spire cooler that comes with the Ryzen 5 3600 does better in thermal performance. So after about an hour of research later, I found the Cooler Master Hyper 212 Black Edition air cooler. This air cooler has been compared in thermal performance with the RAID Stealth cooler and the RAID Spire cooler and does significantly better. This cooler is priced at Rs 4,000 or 55 US dollars, making it a part of the mid-range air cooler category. It is said that this is one of, if not the best air coolers for the Ryzen 5 5600X in this price point. This CPU cooler does not come with pre-applied thermal paste, so a thermal paste solution will be listed in the description. Step 6 of our build is finding a GPU. An ideal GPU in this build should be a GTX 1080, GTX 1660 Ti, or an RTX 2060, but given the current GPU scalping situation, each and every one of those normally mid-range graphics cards are priced at almost 3 times MSRP here in India. So, for this build, I chose the GTX 1650. The GTX 1650 is 2000 rupees more expensive than the GTX 1050, and for just 2000 rupees extra, it is providing much better performance. Here is a comparison between the GTX 1650 and GTX 1050. The GTX 1650 that I'm talking about in this video is the GTX 1650 EX one-click OC from Galaxy. As you can see, I've compared both of the GPUs here, and the GTX 1650 clearly outperforms the 1050 in everything. The GTX 1050 only gives better Minecraft FPS, but unless you're a Bed Wars player, that shouldn't affect you too much. The GTX 1650, however, provides much better first-person shooter games, and FPS matters in those games. So I think the GTX 1650 is the right choice for this build. With this, I concluded that the GTX 1650 compromises on the ultimate mid-range gaming experience, but allows us to have a decent gaming experience until the GPU situation gets better. We can spend a little less on a GPU right now to save up for a better, more powerful GPU in the future. Speaking of power, let's move on to step 7, which is of course selecting a future-ready PSU. A PSU, also known as a power supply unit, is one of the most important parts of our system, so we must not cheap out on this. The minimum criteria for a PSU in this range is 80 plus bronze rating and 450 watts of TDP. As I said before, we must not cheap out on this component, and I think the RM650 650 watt PSU from Corsair is perfect for this build. This PSU provides 650 watts of TDP as well as a side added bonus, which is that it is fully modular. Fully modular PSUs allow for really neat, aesthetically pleasing builds. You may ask, isn't 650 watts a little too much? Well, I have an answer for that too. As some of us may already know, even if our total power draw for the system is, for example, 300 watts, we must always buy a 450 watt PSU to provide support for power draw spikes. Since we want to upgrade to an RTX GPU in the future, which are known to have sudden spikes for power intake, 650 watts should provide more than enough wattage for our present as well as future upgraded components. And the RM650 650 watt 80 plus gold rated PSU from Corsair is the right choice for this build. Moving on to step 8, the case. Our components need a good enclosure which has good airflow and also supports ATX form factor motherboards. The case I chose is Silverstone Vada R1 because of its ATX form factor support, but most importantly its airflow. This case supports ATX, MATX and MITX standards. The Vada R1 has a tempered glass side panel and a magnetic mesh dust filter at the top of the case. The case has clearly visible meshes for ventilation and has space for up to three 120mm fans. So, if in the future you upgrade to a CPU that needs liquid cooling, you could fix the radiator in the front part of the case. Radiators of sizes up to 360mm can be mounted in the case. For the front panel I/O, the Vada R1 has two USB 3.0 ports, one USB 2.0 port, and an audio 3.5mm audio jack. Usually cases at this price point have really they only have USB 2.0 ports for the front panel I/O, whereas this case has USB 3.0 ports, which I think is really good. The only downside to this case is that it comes with just one pre-factory fixed case fan. So additional case fans would set you back by around 2000 rupees or 25 US dollars. The Vada R1 is a case at the budget case category and costs rupees 4000 or 55 US dollars and comes in two different colors, black and white. As I said earlier in the video, I will be talking a bit more about the Ryzen 5 5600X. The Ryzen 5 5600X is an unlocked CPU and can be overclocked without needing any special type of motherboard to do so. The Ryzen 5 5600X can be overclocked, but I don't necessarily recommend doing so as it may affect performance negatively. The second thing is that it already has a pretty mighty base clock at 3.7 GHz, which is more than good enough for gaming. But if you still hope to overclock the Ryzen 5 5600X, I only recommend overclocking the CPU about 2 years later from now, as the CPU will be slower and only then overclocking may benefit you. We can now calculate the prices of all of the products listed here. The CPU costs 24,900 rupees. The motherboard costs 15,699 rupees. The RAM cost us 10,600. The SSDs costed 11,199 and 8,845 respectively. The CPU cooler cost us 4,000. The GPU cost us 20,900 rupees. The PSU cost us 9,985 rupees. The case cost us 4,000 again. The additional case fans cost us 2,000. And finally the thermal paste cost us 345 rupees. So the total price of this build is 112,473 rupees, which I think is appropriate for the mid-range category or mid-range price point. Anyways, that's it guys for today's video. This was the ultimate mid-range gaming PC part picker list, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. I will be making more PC part picker lists in other price points, and also the next video is going to be a gaming mouse buying guide, so stay tuned for that. And don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe. And one last thing is, if you have any suggestions to make my videos better, please let me know in the comments. Even the most minute suggestion really helps me out a lot. This is Vada from the Tech with Vada YouTube channel signing off. Bye guys.